Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from multi-layered domestic alibi networks, weaponized sisterhood pacts, and the high society murder investigations of exclusive anthology formats, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of toxic maternal captivity loops, weaponized emotional imprisonment matrices, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an isolated daughter asset running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, gaslighting slicked perimeters of a completely sealed residential environment, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, trust-shattering deception matrix with Dear Mother, the exceptional, pulse-pounding psychological thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed sovereign of complex family fracture points, dark psychological warfare, and high-velocity domestic dread, Rea Frey. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, deeply determined primary female asset running an unyielding safety loop, a calculating, hyper-controlling maternal handler running a high-stakes proximity tracking and total isolation routine, and an absolute defense of a child node's ultimate autonomy grid collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged maternal medical histories, corrupt family legends, and a deadly ring of active psychological frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised domestic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated internal boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset who uses a lifetime of psychological leverage to strip away her sovereignty, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, young woman kept isolated from society by her obsessive mother, uncovers a hidden cache of letters revealing her entire existence is a fabricated lie, triggering a desperate bid for escape diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Frey completely dominates the high-precision maternal captivity meets suffocating domestic gaslighting perimeters dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Ashley Audrin, Emma Donoghue, Room, and Frida McFadden, while treating realistic psychological trauma logistics, complex multi-generational isolation arcs, and protective high-density extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of enforced societal ignorance, intense psychological codependency, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within her mother's hyper-controlled residential database. Behind her rigorous domestic chore footprints, forced medical treatment logs, and hyper-isolated daily schedule lies an intricate matrix of hidden personal resilience, deeply buried intuitive awareness, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following a lifetime of believing her mother's narrative that the outside world is an existential threat vector, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden mood shifts from her maternal handler, parsing complex behavioral variations during their private routines, and shielding her vulnerable independent consciousness node from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless psychological cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected, high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. A critical oversight by her mother allows her to discover a hidden archive of old letters and official documents tucked away in a forbidden zone of the property grid. Behind her mother's deeply protective, overly attentive civilian facade and artificial health logs lies an intricate matrix of severe narcissistic obsession, a completely synthetic biographical history, and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment directive. As the hostile investigative phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across her ticking clock timeline, the data mining reveals a trail of chilling historical fabrications, proving that her illness, her past timeline, and her very identity are artificial markers designed to secure her complete submission. The standard boundaries of routine filial devotion and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. She is thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind the bolted doors of her home, where an aggressive maternal system handler launches terrifying countermeasures to permanently suppress her survival data stream and execute her complete systemic erasure. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the large country estate, dark corridor junctions, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone.
Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw emotional stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep digital isolation loops, continuous pharmaceutical gaslighting, and persistent dominance to shatter her defense, only to realize that when a captive asset's core survival line is crossed, her hardened extraction protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of stolen correspondence, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the maternal predator's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Rea Frey reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial family betrayal or managing a difficult personal disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and narcissistic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fierce, deeply determined, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their building escape plan, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, captivity suspense noir, hidden secret mystery, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one uncovered family letter triggers a fatal house-house escape showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Frey writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, dust-covered paper trails, old lace, cold adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Dear Mother is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.